Hello and welcome back to How to Game Differently. Today we're going to be looking at the 5 things that myself and a good friend of the channel, Avalon, would like to be kept into Breath of the Wild 2 from, well, the original Breath of the Wild game. Now this is going off a discussion we had after Breath of the Wild 2's announcement for release next year. But to make things interesting, we've also done a video over on his channel about the 5 things we'd want to have taken out of Breath of the Wild 2 from the previous game. But before all that, let's go through the top 5 things we want kept in Breath of the Wild 2. So number 1 for me is the immersion from the game. You know, you're just exploring a big open world, you're fighting some enemies, you've defeated the camp, you go for a stroll, it's all peaceful, you've got wildlife just walking around, the breeze in the air, and you're climbing a mountain, and just all of a sudden a giant dragon just flies past you, spewing out electricity, or fire, or gusts of wind. You know, it's just amazing the atmosphere that the game can just bring out of nowhere. And the different locations just adds to it every single time, and you know, it's just fantastic to explore this beautifully designed world. Some may say it's too open, but I think it's enough open to not to get entirely lost in it, but you know, again, enough for you to immerse yourself into it, of exploring a new area, finding the secrets around it, seeing if there's any new weapons that you can pick up, or side quests, or anything. And with the inclusion of having this new sky area, I think that's just going to add extra to it. But again, I really hope they keep the full immersion that they had in the first game and add it into the new one.
Tying into that immersion a little bit, one thing I think they did a great job of in Breath of the Wild 1 was describing mysteries through locations. There wasn't necessarily a reward for finding anything out, you just went there and you learnt about the history of the place. One such example would be the Shadow Hamlet ruins, which for those who have found it, it's quite an interesting place, I'm sure you'll agree. It's got a fire whiz robe running around. But for those who haven't, I strongly advise you go and find it and you learn the mysteries around it. It's really interesting.
Now, the main reason why I included Avalon into this series was because, well, he loves Breath of the Wild so much. He has no criticism about the game. He thinks it's perfect in every single way. You know, there's no fault or anything about it. It's just everything. He just loves the game so much, you know. He thinks, you know, the openness is fantastic. He particularly likes the dungeons. Now, you know, me being, you know, the smarter of the two of us, you know, I think the dungeons could have been a bit better, but no, he absolutely loves the dungeons, which, you know, each to their own, I'd say. But anyway, back to the video.
Look, I may not like the dungeons, but at least I could do a video without talking about Pokemon.
Number 3 for me would be customization. I love the fact that you could change the actual color palette of them by having different materials and mixing it in. You know, it made that Link your Link, if that makes sense. You know, it's the Link of Hyrule that you decide is the Link of Hyrule. You know, he could be in his suit of armor, he could be in Sheikah gear, you know, he could be running around in underwear, for heaven's sake. You know, there's just so many great options with the customization from it, and obviously having all these different weapons. I know it's a bit of a funny subject about whether to keep the breakable weapons, but the fact that you can decide the different types you want to take with you, and again, it brings a bit of a unique characterization to your version of Link whilst playing the game, having either a bunch of short swords or long swords or spears, you know, again, adding to that customization of how you would like to play the game. You know, it's an open world game, but it also adds to the fact that you're open to play the game however you choose, by using the different weapons, wearing the different pieces of armor. It's that flexibility that I think really added to the greatness that Breath of the Wild 1 had.
The other thing that I would really love to see them keep in Breath of the Wild is the Hyrule Castle dungeon design. Now, it's no secret that I hated the dungeon design through Breath of the Wild. I thought the Divine Beast was so uninspired, it is unreal. However, Hyrule Castle is the epitome of non-linear dungeon design. You can enter through multiple routes, you can skip entire parts of it, or fight your way through it, or find completely optional sections. It is perfection when it comes to dungeon design, and I really want to see that come into Breath of the Wild 2. From the trailers we've had, it looks like we've got proper dungeons coming back, and I really hope that they take some of that non-linearity that came from Hyrule Castle and they add that in to these new dungeons, so that if they add in items that Link can use, such as the flamethrower shield that we see, maybe that could open a new route into a forest temple, for example, so you can still have that non-linear journey where you can go and do dungeons in different orders, but with new items you can approach them in new ways. And I just really hope that they take something of the Hyrule Castle design and they just go bonkers with it. I want to see unique themed dungeons that are completely different to everything else in the game, that you can just approach from unique ways. And I know that's a big ask to ask for so much non-linearity and so much player agency, but they proved they could do it with the Hyrule Castle. It's so different to everything else in Breath of the Wild, and I just want to see something like that spread across the entire game. That is what the Divine Beast could have been if they'd taken the elements they had linked to them and made a unique puzzle based around it. And I just want to see that spread through all of Breath of the Wild, like the maze and labyrinth that was Hyrule Castle.
So number 5 for me would be the food. I know that may sound like a really weird thing to say, but I really enjoyed the fact that you could create your own different dishes, from getting it from, like, you know, animals, and you're hunting and you're getting all the berries and the apples and all that kind of stuff, throwing it into the pot and creating food that you could use in the game. Now, it could be seen as being overpowered sometimes when you can get those full heart mushrooms that obviously just bring your hearts back up as maximum as possible, but the fact that you had the option to choose that, and I think again having options is always great. It allows you to play the game how you so choose to play the game. So I would really think it'd be a great opportunity to keep having all the same cooking aspects from the first game into the next game, and obviously adding more into it, because with the new sky levels that they're including into this, you could have more fruit, more different wildlife up there that have different effects either on yourself or maybe even on enemies. You could even have some more kind of like alchemy as part of it through the whole cooking situation as well. It could be a similar mechanic, but use it as a weapon, could add it onto your sword and so on and so forth. So like I say, the opportunity could be there for adding more and more into it by getting all these different items from enemies once they get defeated, and the crops and so on, and flowers and all that kind of stuff. So that has been our top 5 things that we want kept in for Breath of the Wild 2, and thank you very much to Avalon for joining me and doing this video. Go over to his channel to check out the 5 things that we want taken out of Breath of the Wild 2. And let us know in the comment section below if you agree with either of our statements about the top 5 things that we want to keep in Breath of the Wild. Is there anything we've missed? Anything that you think should have been added to it? Again, still, the main thing that needs to be added to Breath of the Wild 2, and I said it in Avalon's other video, is, it just needs Pokemon. I just don't understand why Pokemon isn't in it. They're making Pokemon Arceus, and Pokemon Arceus is basically Breath of the Wild with Pokemon. So why not just actually make Pokemon and Legend of Zelda 1-to-1? It's just, like I say, let us know in the comment section below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, look to subscribe to How to Game Differently and click on that notification bell to let YouTube alert you that there's a brand new episode of How to Game Differently. And of course, subscribe to Avalon. He has a fantastic channel that covers games reviews. He's doing an amazing randomizer on the Ocarina of Time, talking about Metroidvanias and the Legend of Zelda series as a whole. So like I say, go show some love, check his channel out. Amazing guy, amazing videos. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will speak to you soon. Goodbye.